Look at a map of East Africa and search for the name Mukura. You get 3 different results. In eastern Uganda, you'll find a rural railway station. Cross into western Rwanda, and the map pins an isolated mountain forest and a historic football club. These 3 places share no physical border and serve entirely different purposes. Yet by the late 1990s, they were bound by a single grim reality. All 3 had been pushed to the absolute brink of total destruction. Solving this name reveals how these disparate entities fell, and more importantly, the specific ways they were brought back. We start in Uganda. In July 1989, the military swept through the eastern part of the country, searching for rebel collaborators. This rusted sign marks Okangalo Station in the village of Mukura. Over the course of a few days, soldiers rounded up local civilians from their homes and gardens, marching them 4 kilometers to this railway stop. The soldiers interrogated the detainees, trying to identify rebel fighters. When they couldn't, they forced about 120 men into an abandoned train wagon, number C521083. They closed the door and locked it. There was no ventilation. Looking at these overgrown tracks today, it's hard to picture the heat of that afternoon. For over 4 hours, the men inside struggled to breathe. When the soldiers finally opened the door, 69 men had suffocated to death. For over 15 years, the survivors and the families of the victims waited for acknowledgement. It wasn't until 2010 that the government delivered a promised financial compensation package, issued a public apology, and finally upgraded the local mass grave and memorial sites. A concrete monument can mark the site of a tragedy, but true community restoration requires the delayed mechanism of political and financial acknowledgement to the people left behind. Across the border in western Rwanda sits the Albertine Rift. When the Mukura Forest Reserve was founded here in 1951, it was a vast, continuous swath of mountain forest. This map outlines its original 30,000-hectare boundary, but the surrounding area had a population density of nearly 600 people per square kilometer, surviving on just $3 a month. Residents began clearing trees for firewood and farming space. The ecological toll was severe. The forest lost nearly half its biodiversity, and its physical footprint contracted to an isolated 16-square-kilometer patch. To save what was left, the government and the World Bank launched a landscape restoration project. They integrated nature-based solutions with the local agricultural economy, giving the community a financial stake in protecting the trees rather than clearing them for survival. You can see the result in this sweeping view of the restored canopy. The recovery was so successful that in 2016, the forest was officially gazetted as a national park. 4 years later, it earned an elite designation as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Ecological restoration in high-poverty zones is never an accident. It happens when environmental science fuses with direct economic support for the local communities living on the edge. Further south, in the Rwandan district of Huye, the name Mukura carries a totally different weight. Here, it belongs to Mukura Victory Sports, a black and yellow football club founded in the 1930s. In 1994, the genocide against the Tutsi devastated the country. The violence reached deep into the community, claiming the lives of 25 of the club's players, staff, and core members. The surviving club entered decades of obscurity. They operated with severe financial deficits, struggled to pay wages, and fought simply to maintain a spot in the National League without dissolving completely. Then, a new leadership group shifted the financial model. They leaned on the local fan base, securing small sponsorships from local Huye businesses to stabilize the club's budget and start recruiting top talent again. The strategy paid off on the pitch. In 2018, Mukura ended a 26-year trophy drought by winning the Peace Cup, earning them a spot to represent Rwanda on the continental stage at the CAF Confederation Cup. A community cannot be erased from the map as long as its cultural institutions are kept alive by the survivors. Today, we have a memorialized town in Uganda, a protected biosphere reserve in the Albertine Rift, and a victorious football team in Huye. They faced entirely different threats: paranoid military suspicion, desperate economic deforestation, and systematic ethnic genocide. Each recovery followed a different path: government intervention, international conservation, and local cultural management. But all 3 relied on a long-term commitment that refused to let the name Mukura be erased from the map. The name proves that whether the damage is human, ecological, or cultural, complete restoration is possible, regardless of the depth of the initial scars.